unsung narrative. Young, dumb American, arrogant, throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting a fool, this embarrassing is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Trying to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That's church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, can I describe it? Used to describe it as a young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. Hit every bar, even though my bar has been the hardest. The scars on my face said I ain't always been the smartest, but I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people, I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson, I'm a bison, a beast. I'm hot like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old, out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant. Tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. I guess I'll lit, I guess I'll bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody...
Yeah, my guy, it's Tuesday. Gonna do a little sports nonsense and whiskey, hanging with the fella. The other fella's taking a little mental health day, so cheers to you, good sir. Robert, you take that break. You had a rough week, so enjoy it. We got a wonderful evening of sports conversation, and I'm sure between Pinky and I there'll be nonsense and muting and all sorts of good entertainment for the people out there. So stick with us and we'll see what happens. But cheers to all the good people. Pinky, how you doing, my guy?
Doing good, buddy. This is the first time I'm wearing this jersey. First time I broke it out. It hadn't been cold enough to wear a hockey jersey yet, and I'm digging it.
It was cold enough today.
I'm digging it. I like it. This was
that's a good look.
It was a good purchase for $40. So
heck yeah.
I just need to get to a game. Oh,
those games are fun. I've only been to one, surprisingly enough, somehow.
I've only been to one myself.
A lot of Nuggets games, a lot of Broncos games, not nearly as many Broncos games as you.
I will say, I think the problem is Avs tickets are so much more expensive than Nuggets tickets the most of the time.
They still have the guys' night out package and family night and stuff, though. So we gotta get on one of those. That's what we gotta do.
They do. It's just like on a normal. If you're getting a decent seat, you're talking $60 or more at most Avs games. So that's just tough for me to swallow. But I'm gonna be paying about that. You know, we're gonna go see Wemby play when he's here January 3rd. So I think you're not back yet, or you are just getting back by that time.
I think I'm still out of town on that day or coming back that day, one of the two, something like that. So yeah,
that could be a weird weekend for me.
I'm driving. I got to double check this now again, because I think I'm driving down there the day Nebraska plays their first bowl game in however many years it's been. So,
oh wow,
I won't even get to see that. Avs are winning 5-2. Wonderful. Yeah. Good wearing of the jersey, Pinky. I like that.
We're going to talk about them in a little bit. At least I think there's something to talk about.
I will be dead in the vastness of northern New Mexico at that point with no service whatsoever. So I will not be watching that.
And they just threw hats on the ice. Miko just got his third.
Good for Miko.
Miko's got 3. He's got 2 assists. McKinnon's got 1 goal and 4 assists. So having a pretty good night. Pretty good night.
Yeah, it's a pretty good night.
Let's see.
Pretty good
nonsense. Night. Do we have any nonsense? We did get together and have a little bonding time over watching Skeleton Crew. I'm gonna talk about that for a moment, Kev. I'm gonna have to get the charger going.
Oh, geez, Louise, this guy, people, I tell you, you would think after these years of us doing this, he would have things slightly more together.
I thought the wife said, like, I'm going to blame the wife, and she sometimes listens, sometimes doesn't. It's her laptop that I use. So
we won't hear from Pinky tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Just know, like, that was the last we'll hear from. For a moment.
I don't have enough life insurance for her to get rid of me, so we're good. We're good.
Oh, well, I guess that's a plus, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Clayton. My man. Well, let's shoot, I almost want to ask Clayton. Clayton, what do you want to talk about? He jumps in and jumps in.
You know what
he jumps in and jumps out.
You know what Clayton wants to talk about.
I know what Clayton wants to talk about.
We'll get there. The Skeleton Crew looks like it's going to be pretty good. Little space western kind of thing. It seems like.
Very campy. Good fun. Kids getting in trouble, right? So.
On a whole different level.
Yeah, like on a whole nother level.
Thought I pushed boundaries as a child. I didn't do anything close to that. I'll tell you that much.
So, it was cool. It was tough watching it with Robert. I think he was almost getting me because he was just over the moon excited, and I was like, "Bro, it's cool. Just chill. It's cool. It's only 2 episodes." But let's see. Bo Nix. Yes, Bo Nix. We all know I'm a Boliva. No Fly Zone Part 2. Clayton. I don't know about No Fly Zone Part 2.
Pretty good when Moss is in there with Sertan. It's pretty good, but
I don't think it's that level.
The no-fly zone also included the safeties. That was part of the whole situation, was that whole defensive back room.
And TJ Ward was a dog.
Yeah. So we don't quite have the safeties at this moment in time to equal that. We do have some really good corners, so that's solid. But there's things that the Broncos have in good positions, and there's other things they still need to try to round out, fill out a little bit, and they could be in some serious contention.
Clayton, you always got an invitation, baby. Just let us know. Tuesdays at, I think you're in Central Time, so 8:30 your time. Jump in for a little bit as long as you want. That's when guests come on, we let them come on for as long as they want. It's up to them. They can make it quick and easy, or they can just hang out. So up to you, Clayton. You let us know. Let's see. Started thinking about the Broncos. I wasn't ready for that yet.
Yeah, easy there, big dog.
I got to warm up first. I got to warm up. Let's see. So Skeleton Crew was good. Haven't really checked anything else. I do have a guest lined up for next Tuesday, Clayton.
Call it after the first of the year, my guy. That's probably going to be the best, because we're going to holidays season the way Tuesdays line up this year. We're going to be taking the holiday season off. So
I mean, technically, if you want to talk other things than Broncos, you could jump on right now if you want. We can send you the link. It's up to you. But yeah, I do have a buddy coming on. Michael Lopez is going to join us next Tuesday. His buddy Tony came on earlier, and he thought that was just the coolest thing. So Michael wanted to get on too. That's how we do it.
At times, it sure is. Come hang out with the fellas.
Come hang out, have a couple drinks, just talk some trash. have a good time. So
if you say anything too foolish, just know you're going to get called out, and you're going to have to live with that because this is live and recorded.
Live recorded. I've been known to be an idiot on here. That's happened. So
we all have. Cheers to that, good sir.
I do, I will say just a little bit of nonsense. I do think it's hilarious when people say, like, when they comment on our TikTok videos or YouTube videos that we put up, I automatically know you don't know shit. Yeah. If your comment is, that guy doesn't know ball.
We get a lot of that.
When you take a 60-second or less clip out of context, which again, that's kind of part of the shorts, is, just you're getting this small little thing and it's supposed to generate some interest. Maybe you subscribe, hopefully. Like and subscribe. But we get that comment a lot, and that infuriates me. Because not only do they not tell you why you don't know ball, they can't back that's just a comment. Like, what about my take do you not like? We can disagree, and that's okay. But tell me what about it makes you think I don't know ball, right? So yeah, that one's like, I could do a whole episode of what grinds my gears, and it would be it'd be on
right. Yeah.
No, yeah. That one gets me.
That's good. That's good.
I think the next anybody out there, if you want to, the next person who posts that, I think I'm literally gonna go like right off on it. Like, well, if I don't know ball, tell me, and then I can tell you don't know ball. Like,
just take a breath and put the phone down and walk away. I've learned myself. Like, yeah, I get it. I get it. You give a quick little snippet or a 2-sentence take, and the trolls come flying. It happens. It happens. It is what it is.
I do like the trolls who are just trolls to be trolls. Some of those guys can be fun, and some of those guys can agree with you as well, which is good. But ooh, who wins the Natty? I guess college football. The people are ready.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm good to jump in and start discussing.
Who wins the Natty, man? Pull it up, Caleb. I don't have the matchups in front of me. When does it start? I guess I should start with that question. When is this?
Next Friday.
Next
20th.
Okay, 20th. Okay, good. Good.
So I'll run through them real quick. So Friday, you're gonna have Indiana Notre Dame.
Ooh, I like that.
Saturday, you have a full slate starting at 10 a.m., 2 o'clock, and then a 6. You've got SMU Penn State, Clemson Texas, and then Tennessee Ohio State. So those are all the first round matchups.
Okay.
And then 10 days later, so those are Friday night and then Saturday, the 3 games, 20th and 21st. New Year's Eve, you've got Boise State and whoever plays them. And then Wednesday, January 1st, you got a full slate. Whoever plays Arizona, whoever plays Oregon, whoever plays Georgia. So it's going to be a whole lot of fun. There is talk that certain teams have an easier path than others based on the way the rankings finalized and where the brackets line out. So the winner, if I can find it here, the winner of Clemson, Texas will play Arizona State. The winner of Tennessee, Ohio State will play Oregon. So we could see a potential Oregon-Ohio State rematch. SMU and Penn State winner will play Boise State. And then the Indiana Notre Dame winner will play Georgia. So a couple interesting notes. Arizona State's playing really good ball right now.
I don't know how many teams want to play Arizona State right now.
They got a great run game, hot. And Scatabo is a legit running back. Is he the best in the country? I don't know. He's somebody whose name I didn't mention previously because, like I said, there are a few. I didn't mention, I believe, Hampton from North Carolina either. There's some good running backs.
I'm just starting to do like that early draft, like look into like what's coming out. and I was listening to a show, and one of the guys, Brock Ewart, was on one of the Denver shows with Cecil Lammey and Dover, and he has a Heisman vote, and he said he would have, Hunter, Genty, Scatterbo.
Yeah.
He was like, has any other player, and this is where he really liked Scatterbo, is like, has any other player really like taken that program to another level? And Scatterbo is one of those. So,
he absolutely is.
I started watching some of his highlights, and I was like, oh damn.
He can play, and he put up numbers, and I can't remember what year it was, but it was McCaffrey was the last guy to do it with the rushing and receiving yards and touchdowns. So even Genty doesn't compare to him in the receiving game. He's got better stats in the receiving game than Genty. So it's going to be interesting what happens in that matchup with Arizona State, because Clemson and Texas both look very beatable.
Yes.
In my opinion. So I wouldn't count Arizona State out of that just because of the names on the front of the jerseys by any means.
You know what's great about this, though? Like, we're seeing teams play, like, how many times have we seen these teams play each other? Right? How much, like, this is true, like, parity of just, hey, you know what? You got a shot.
Oh, yeah.
Every team's got a shot.
I mean, Tennessee, Ohio State, as Ohio State looked like this dominant power that everybody expected them to be at the start of the year? I wouldn't think so, right?
Dude.
So then they move on. They get a rematch with Oregon. That was a close game.
I don't know how many
if Dan
teams
Lanning
Michigan
doesn't pull a fish out of the hat, not even a rabbit. Dude pulled a fish out of the hat with that penalty and not having to sacrifice what could have been, and like there's a lot that went into that game. So that's be an interesting rematch for sure.
For me, Mark, answering Mark here, since he said who wins the Natty, I like Oregon a lot. I've always liked their uniforms. I like where their stadium is. I like their atmosphere. I like their fan base. I like a lot of their players that have come out of there. Before Bo Nix, I mean, I like Bo Nix too, but before Bo Nix, I've always had a thing for Oregon. I like the mascot. The Oregon Duck kind of reminds me of the Miami one a little bit. I really like them. So I'm rooting for Oregon to take it all. And I saw Klatt talking about it. Oregon's pretty much got the toughest path to the title. But at the end of the day, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. I mean, that's what the playoffs are about, right? It's not always going to be easy. So, I know I agreed with Klatt's point that if you basically win the number one seed, kind of like it is in normal NFL, you get a little bit easier path. Like, we don't talk about that very often, but if you win that number one seed, you get an easier path. Why do you think the Patriots were always in the AFC title game? Right? Because they got the bye, they play the divisional game. The divisional game, they get the lowest seed still in the playoffs, right? We don't do a reseeding or anything. They get the lowest seed that comes to their house. So, whoever 4, 5, 6, 7 is comes to the number one, right? The college one's not set up that way, unfortunately, but maybe they'll change it.
Well, I mean, technically the way it's seeded out, Oregon does have, quote unquote, the easiest path based on the seed they would play. It's just the way the seeding is done because of conference champions getting the automatic bye.
Right.
It changes the way maybe people feel about who are the actual best teams.
I mean,
which is what caused Oregon to have a quote unquote harder path possibly to win it all.
I think the Ohio State, Texas, and Tennessee are like the three teams that I think are the toughest, would be the toughest matchups for Oregon. So again, I don't know some of the other small schools, SMU, I don't think Clemson's that great. Boise State, they've got Genty, but how good really are they? We'll see.
They lost to Oregon on a last-second field goal at the beginning of the year.
And that's back when Oregon wasn't playing like Oregon either. Like that.
I mean, I would like to think both teams have only gotten better since then.
I think both teams have gotten better since then. So interesting matchups.
You know, I think SMU, Penn State. Look, Penn State's a pretty damn good team. They almost had Oregon, but they can also no-show, and SMU could run wild. We saw that offense. They were down big to Clemson, 17, I believe, going into the fourth. They came back and had a chance to go to overtime if it wasn't for an insanely great return from Clemson and then a last-second long field goal. So SMU can put up points. So don't be fooled. That's going to be a really good game. Whoever wins that gets Boise State. I think both teams are really good. And I wouldn't just give it to Boise State because of the higher seed. I think what Boise State does so well, though, is that run game and the way they control the clock and then their play action that the quarterback runs off of that is, I think, really underrated. So I would see Boise State personally moving on to that semifinal. Indiana, Notre Dame. Look, I personally think Indiana understands the assignment now. After that game to Ohio State, I think they were a little too maybe into themselves. I think they're a little too hyped up. I think they didn't quite understand that next level because they had kind of been blowing everybody out all season. I think they understand now. And while Notre Dame's in here, I don't think Notre Dame's all that great. So I can easily see Indiana winning that and going and playing Georgia. Georgia sounds like they might be missing their starting quarterback. Carson Beck might have an injury that's going to keep him out.
And that might be a good thing.
Well, possibly. So their backup, Stockton's going to be playing, if that's the case. Does Georgia look better or worse? You know, what happens in that situation? I think Georgia looks very beatable this year. I think they've proved that on the field a couple different times. I could easily see them losing in those semifinals to Indiana or Notre Dame. I could also see them moving on. Like those three teams, I could see any scenario of any of those teams moving on to the semifinals. I just don't have faith in any one of them to be a dominant team and pull it out.
I got a good question for you, Caleb. If you had an Alabama fan crying to you right now why they should be in the playoffs, what would you tell them?
So you lost to two unranked teams, and they were in conference. If you want to handle your business and you don't want to have to leave it up to somebody else's decision, you win your conference games and you play in a championship. Because what have I said about playing in a championship game? If you're already ranked inside the college football playoffs and you're playing in a championship game, you should not then be knocked out, win or lose that championship game. So that's how you don't suffer these issues. And not only did you lose to two non-ranked opponents, one of them you lost to, you got drummed. You got spanked in a game that you were the heavy favorite in Oklahoma. So, you know, this isn't a Florida State of last year where they should have been in regardless of how you feel about their quarterback situation. They finished the regular season undefeated and a conference champion. They should have been one of the final four teams. It just is what it is. You like it or not, think they're going to get blown out or not, I don't care. They did exactly what all the criteria is asking of you, and then you left them out. This is not that situation with Bama. Bama has a lot of blank check marks that could have been filled in, and they didn't check the boxes when they needed to. And that's why they're not in. And I like it. I appreciate the committee didn't bump SMU for losing in the ACC championship. Now, if they had gotten smoked by Clemson, I might feel a little bit differently.
Right.
But they didn't. They almost won that game.
I'm a Miami fan, as you know. I'm not crying. Don't lose to Syracuse. You had it all right there. You lost to Georgia Tech and Syracuse. And again, after you lost to Georgia Tech, and they run the ball and they're physical and you lose to them, we can give you a little bit of grace. You lost one. Then you come back and you lose to Syracuse? Come on now.
Yeah, I mean,
it was like, you're out, you're done.
Absolutely. Same to South Carolina and Ole Miss. like they want to talk about the wins they have, but to me, the losses overshadow that.
Right.
You have bad losses. Now, South Carolina's loss to Clemson. I mean, their victory to Clemson now looks a little bit better in hindsight with Clemson winning the ACC championship. But it's still the losses that hurt you. So you can only play who's in front of you is my thing. And the SEC and Bama want to act like they're going to try to make easier schedules for themselves out of conference. Like, dude, Bama already played Mercer. Like, the amount of Sisters of the Poor schools, FCS schools that the SEC already plays, some of them do it twice a year. Like, I don't know what you're whining about and complaining about. Like, you can say your strength of schedule is this, and Georgia's was really good this year. There you go. Georgia had a really good schedule, but they had 2 on there of FCS schools, if I remember correctly.
Which I don't mind. If you want to play Sisters of the Poor at the beginning of the season as your tune-up game, I'm all right with that, right? You pay them some money, they get some money, and you help them out as a school. You get to run over them and kind of get get your you just kind of get the kinks out, right? That first game, sometimes it's tough when you play a really tough team that first game. So it's nice to have kind of that warm up. I get it. But then after that, like, there shouldn't be any more cupcakes on your schedule. That's it.
I'll take it a step further. I do not like the FCS games. I know it helps those schools because they get paid a lot of money to play up, and that's a big financial gain for them. But if I had it my way, we got a playoff now, a true playoff. You're not playing a lower. That's like if baseball started the season, they're like, we're going to play a couple AAA teams to get warmed up. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do that to start our season, but if we win, it counts. Okay. I don't like it. So to me, you should only be playing power, whatever there are, 4 plus the other 5 or 6, whatever it is. Play one of those schools, and then everything after the third week of the season should be in conference. SEC only plays, I think, 8 conference games right now, which is why you just had, Georgia and Bama playing Sisters of the Poor in November, which is ridiculous to me. Big Ten plays 9, I believe, conference games. I think they all need to come together and just say, hey, this is, we can play, say, the first 3 weeks out of conference, first 2 weeks out of conference, and then everything else is in conference. You play in your conference, and that's how you decide who is the best in your conference, championship games, things of that nature. I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if the championship games go away just because of implications and things of that nature. For sure, next year, I think the automatic bid goes away as far as the first round bye. It'll get you an automatic bid in, but you'll still be seeded based on how good they think you are as a team, not just giving you a first round bye because you won a championship game. I think that'll definitely happen next year. So,
well, and I think that only is the case because you have the SMUs, you have the Arizona States, you've got teams, Boise State. You just have teams maybe they didn't expect to be so good that got those bids. And
well, Boise State and Arizona State, a lot of people feel like should not be on that top 4 line. They should not have a first round bye.
Under the current rules, right. You should, right?
Right, but that's why I think next year that'll go away as far as the first round bye is concerned. It'll get you an automatic bid into the 12, but you could end up being number 12 still. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we'll see what happens. I think long term, I like Oregon, and honestly, based on the way they're playing ball right now, I do like or Arizona State. So I think those 2 teams do end up meeting up in the semifinals on the top half of that bracket. The way Arizona State is running the ball right now is just really, really good. So as long as they continue that, I don't see them getting beat. Oregon in a rematch against Ohio State. or even the Tennessee matchup, I just like them. They got a top 10 defense. They got a great offense. They've got the players in the right positions, skill, talent all over the place. But I think the way Arizona State runs the ball, that's what caused Arizona trouble at the beginning of the season with Genty and Boise State, and why Boise State had a chance. But what Arizona State does slightly differently, I think, is use their running back more out of the backfield in the passing game as well, which that could cause Arizona State some trouble, as we saw against Penn State a little bit, pulling guys out of the backfield in that run game. So that could be a really interesting matchup. In the bottom half, I do think Georgia loses to either Notre Dame or Indiana. Look, Indiana and Notre Dame I don't think are spectacular. I think they're good football teams. I think Georgia is just not playing good football right now. They're not playing their best possible brand of football. And when you come to this time of the season and it still looks like you're trying to figure things out, that usually catches up to you in a bad way. So, the fact that they had to go to overtime against Texas to win, granted that was, beating a team twice, and that's really hard to do in the same season in any sport. We all know that. But they still, had a little bit of trouble. And I don't think Texas is some, world beater this year. I actually still believe they would be better with Arch Manning if he had stayed in than they are with Quinn Ewers. I just think Arch gives them more of a dynamic in the run game as well. And I think from what I saw was throwing the ball just as well as Quinn Ewers. So you give him time to learn and read defenses more all season. By now, he would have been in a really good place. I think he would have been better than Quinn Ewers, whatever he's been this year. So I think that hinders Texas a little bit, and why I don't see them coming out of that top half. Georgia loses. I do think Boise State advances because they just run the ball so well. They just do. And that's huge. When you can control the clock like that, and based on, do they get SMU or Penn State? I think that's a really good matchup in their favor for those situations. Penn State could surprise everybody. Don't get me wrong. They have potential to be maybe the best team in the nation, and maybe a team that shouldn't have even made the playoffs. They've kind of got that Jekyll Hyde in them more so than maybe any team in the bracket. So that's an interesting situation there. But I think Boise State advances. So then you get, a Boise State and Indiana or Notre Dame in the semifinal. Coin flip that. I would probably think Boise State could stay on a hot little run just because I do think they're a really good team. And people talk about them playing in the Mountain West all year. But again, they lost on a last-second field goal to Oregon. Now, yeah, you want to say it's first week in the season, all that, this and the other. Fine. But, it's not like Boise State lost again. It's not like they didn't win their conference. It's not like they haven't gotten better as the season progressed, just like Oregon did. So then you could be looking at a potential Boise State-Oregon national championship. A repeat of the week 1 game, you could be possibly looking at that as your national championship game. So I don't have a good for you for saying Oregon. It wouldn't surprise me if they won by any means. I don't have a favorite. I don't think there's one dominant team in college football this year. I can easily see a path for any of these teams to win. But I think, you look at in Indiana getting further, they could easily get blown out first round by Notre Dame. So then you got Notre Dame, Georgia, some blue blood kind of things. I don't know. I just don't see any one team being dominant this year.
I want to see Oregon win their first. That's what I want.
Be cool. I think that is the thing I'm pulling for the most, is seeing a team win their first and not seeing a champion repeat or, something of that nature. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting.
Is the Heisman Saturday? Is it this weekend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Army Navy Saturday.
Heisman Saturday night.
Yep.
Okay, so we can put that to bed after this weekend.
Yes, it will be over and done. Over and done.
Pretty confident Travis Hunter's got it locked up. Pretty confident. Might not be a landslide, but I feel like from most of the media folks, they're on board that it's Travis Hunter. So
yeah, and I still don't understand how people are like, well, he's not the best at any one position, so he can't be the Heisman. The Heisman isn't the trophy for best at any one position. They've got a whole bunch of trophies for that.
Best college football player.
It's for the best college football player. If the dude is ranked inside the top 10, consensusly inside the top 10 at two different positions, and those two positions are on opposite sides of the football field, I just don't understand how people don't think he's the best college football player.
If
Genty had broken Barry Sanders' record, then I would have a serious conversation with myself. I might coin flip it because you're talking insane history. But
I mean, you're talking, that record's held since '89.
And that Barry did it in less games than Genty played this year. So there's a lot of things that go into it. I'm saying, had he, though, then maybe we could talk coin flip. Maybe. But everything Travis Hunter does, you have to, other teams game plan around him on both sides of the football. That's crazy. That's crazy.
I saw some posts on our Facebook. There was a Chiefs fan. I don't think I've seen him post before, but he was commenting about it. And just the hype of Deion Sanders. I was like, remove your Deion Sanders hate. Remove the glitz and glamour of kind of what he's done at CU, right? And he's brought all the attention and all that. Travis Hunter's an amazing football player. And if you can't if you can't watch a CU game and just remove all your hate and just say, wow, that dude might have the best hands in college football. And he can play both ways. And he does play both ways. He played more snaps he played double the snaps of anybody in the country. I feel like they just got their goggles of hate on and they just will not take those off and just say, wow, what we're seeing is just something we've never seen before. Ever. And again, Charles Woodson, Champ Bailey, those are the last two guys that were decent on offense and special teams and all that.
They were impactful on offense. But they didn't.
Not on this level.
Yeah, man. It's not even close. Like, they had their little plays, packages of plays that they would come in for. And, they'd get a touchdown here and there, and they'd cause a stir. But they didn't have the impact. They were impactful, but they didn't have an impact the way Travis Hunter does. Guys are literally game planning the defense around him on offense. Shedeur Sanders throwing to Travis Hunter is how you start your game planning against Colorado. Not like trying to stop the run game. It's not trying to stop the pass game. It's shut down Travis Hunter, and then everybody else, we see what happens. Like, that was the game plan all year. On defense, if you watch the games, he didn't get thrown out a whole lot. Guys didn't usually attack him. They went other places. So the interceptions he got were pretty spectacular. And Genty's insanely good. I'm not trying to take anything away from the dude. He is an amazing running back. I just have never seen in my years anything close to Travis Hunter at this level. If he was just some dude who played a bunch of snaps on offense and defense, it'd be a cool story. Like, cool, you're good enough to just start on offense and defense for your team. Good for you, cool story. You're not Heisman. Travis Hunter isn't doing that. You know what I mean? He's not just a cool story. He is a baller. And like you said, I agree. We've talked about it many times before. We think he's probably got the best hands in college football. So people that want to say he's not an elite receiver, I just don't get that. People want to say he's not the best cornerback in the country. Okay. But he is up for awards that said he was. Not the Jim Thorpe, which was kind of odd, but he's still ranked, by all metrics in the top 10 in corners in the country. Like, that's just crazy. Guys don't do that anymore. In the modern era of football, nobody's done that. So that, to me, that is the definition of best player in the country. Like, you don't have to be the best at one position. I can just use my eye test and go, oh, wait, he's doing that stuff on both sides of the field and nobody else is? Yeah, that's the best player in the country. That's just how I feel. Like, I don't need record set for me to decide that I think you're the most talented dude.
I think you had that post, right? Somebody put like $1,500 on him to win the Heisman, and it pays $12,000.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, don't cash out, Ben. Let it ride. He's winning.
No, let that, yeah, absolutely.
He's winning, and he's worthy. Genty is worthy, and that's what happens most years, right? In most years, there's other worthy candidates, but it's Travis Hunter, and it's no knock on Genty. Genty will still get drafted really high. He's probably going to have a really great, amazing NFL career. He's got that low center of gravity. He's got those thick thighs. He's fast. I mean, he like you look at him, you go NFL running back. Like you see it.
Yeah, man, it'll just add to the list of conversation of people who should have won the Heisman but didn't. You can go back a lot of years, and it's happened many a time. But some of the bigger ones in recent memory, Peyton Manning losing to Charles Woodson, there's a lot of conversation around that one. Sue losing to McCoy, was it Colt McCoy, I believe? That was a big conversation for a lot of people.
Colt McCoy didn't win a Heisman. Did he?
I feel like
I'm gonna put this Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, pull that one up. I feel like he did.
Let's pull this up here.
It doesn't sound right.
Was that Sam Bradford?
Maybe it was Sam Bradford.
What year did Sue come out?
Just what year did Sue lose the Heisman? That'll tell you.
Oh, sorry, I went to Heisman winners.
Yeah, I can't remember what year. I want to say like 08, 09, but no, maybe even earlier than that. You having trouble?
Hold on, I was trying to like Heisman finalists in history. There we go, by year. There we go. That's what I want. I got it. So we're looking at
2009. Mark Ingram won it that year.
Well, he didn't Sue didn't even make it in the top 3, bro. Because you had that year Mark Ingram, Toby Gerhart, and Colt McCoy.
Yeah, I knew Colt McCoy was in there.
He didn't even make the list, bro.
They had 6 that year, if I remember correctly, or 5. They used to invite more than 4, and it's recent history that they've gone down.
So I'm on the NCAA website, and theirs only gives the top 3. So they only show who the top 3 guys were.
That might be all they show. That's not all who were invited. So votes, regardless, everybody knew Sue was the best player in college football that year. But Nebraska was not a great team. They lost to Texas in the Big 12 championship. So, they didn't want to give it to a guy whose team wasn't all that good. There's a lot of others throughout history that people look at it and they're kind of like, I don't really like that. Last year there was a lot of people who were not on the Jaden Daniels bandwagon. A lot of people thought Bo Nix should have won it last year. So every year, I don't know if it happens every year, but I think this year is one of the stronger ones that will be remembered in history, regardless of who wins. You'll have a large contingency that believes that someone got snubbed. So I just, again, if Genty was playing defense too and doing what he was doing on offense, and he was just an average defensive player, I'd say, dude, you're in. Like, you don't even have to do anything great on defense with the way you're rolling the rock on the offensive side. Because, again, Travis Hunter wasn't setting any records, but he's a damn good football player. Damn good. And I do, again, we've said we think he's got the best hands in the nation. I think he's an underrated route runner, like legit underrated route runner. And the more that improves, he's only going to get scarier as a receiver.
His hands are just
so good.
So good.
So good. And as a corner, I do believe he's a student of the game. I do think he's learned a lot from Dion. And while he may not be the best shutdown corner right now, he is a ball hawk. And Pinky said this before. We've talked about it a lot. If you make a mistake, he will make you pay for it.
Yes, sir.
And with him being a student of the game, and if you know anything about him, like if you've done any research, the kid just wants to chill at home, do some live social media events here and there, and play football. Like legit, really great young man.
That guy eats, sleeps football. He's all about it.
So he's only going to improve at his craft. So if you're saying he's top 10 in the country right now at receiver and top 10 in the country right now at cornerback, he's going to only get better with that as things move forward, because this is actually what he loves to do. He doesn't have an outside life. Like, there's a lot of things in his favor, and I'm not trying to say Genty's not like that. I'm just trying to say what Travis Hunter is right now, I only see continuing to improve. Like, I don't understand how an NFL team wouldn't allow him to play both sides of the ball. The only thing I think could cause it to stop is a major injury. That they're like, all right, now you're missing time. It's because you were overplaying, so now you got to pick. But until that happens, if it ever does, I think you let the dude run.
The one problem I see is when you draft a guy that high, you feel like I feel like in the NFL against the best athletes, I don't think he can play the amount of snaps he's playing now, or shouldn't play the amount of snaps he's playing now. So then you got to pick and choose. Do we play him at wide receiver full time and then a little bit of time at corner here and there, or do we play him corner full time and then add him as like the number 3 on offense, right?
I mean, what I would do is have him as one of my top 2 receivers, and I would bring him in nickel situations type of thing on defense. So he might be my 3rd or 4th corner, my 4th or 5th corner. But again, in today's modern NFL, when it's a passing league, he's more impactful on the offensive side in the NFL than he will be on the defensive side. And on top of that, if you can bring him in on the defensive side in situational football and know he can play any of those downs, like you don't have to limit a snap count. You just know that because of the way the game is, he's only going to play 20 or 30 snaps, whatever. It kind of allows you to stretch that out and see what can really happen.
I'm wondering how, because we've seen it with other players when they don't know where to play you, that kind of leads to you falling in the draft a little bit, right? When you're
that's those gadget guys who only play one side of the ball. Travis isn't a gadget guy who they don't know where to play.
We've had a few of the linebackers that are coming out, like Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah, but was he a safety? Was he a linebacker? He's a very undersized linebacker in the NFL. And he was the exact name I was thinking of in my head, so I'm glad you brought him up. Simmons is a great football player.
I think the Cardinals
seems to be able to put him in a position to succeed because they can't figure out his position.
Hassan Reddick was the same guy. The Cardinals have a history of drafting guys that they're like, we're not quite sure where to play them, and then they suck at putting them in position, and then they end up going somewhere else. So
and sometimes when you're just a really good athlete on defense in the college level, you don't quite have the skill set necessary to be really good at the next level in the NFL because you don't have a specific position where you can fit in. And at the NFL, everybody's kind of super talented athlete. So it's not like you shine out as much anymore. That's not Travis Hunter. He is a wide receiver and he's a cornerback. You know what I mean? So it's not like they won't be able to figure out where to play him. They're just going to, my guess would be initially you limit his snaps on the defensive side, if it was me. And then if he proves as the season goes along that he can manage and maintain and he's playing at a high level, I'll allow him to increase his snaps a little bit, playing more meaningful downs on the defensive side of the ball if that's what happens. But I think in today's modern era, he has a much higher level of impact on the offensive side of the ball. And then the fact that he can play defense at all is just that cherry on top. It's like Ohtani. Everybody's like, he's a great pitcher and he's an okay hitter. He's not bad. And then this year he was like, oh yeah, wait. What were you saying about my hitting? And I'm just going to destroy everybody. And then he's going to come back and pitch. So I think that's kind of what they'll figure out with Travis Hunter. Like, oh yeah, he's really good at both, and he can handle this. So
I
let
think
him do it.
It's an interesting conversation. It's a dilemma that any team that drafts him is going to have to figure out. And there's a lot of different ways to play it. Well, it's just going to be interesting. I don't know. We've never seen it before. We've never
Not
seen
like
it.
this.
We've never
Not
seen. I think JJ Watt's MVP year. He should have won MVP over Aaron Rodgers. I truly believe that. He played a little bit on offense, and he was actually pretty damn good and made an impact. Right, he scored 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's the last player I remember, like him and Mike Vrabel, who occasionally would come in and again he'd come in, he reported.
He's got like 9 catches in his career for 9 touchdowns, something ridiculous like that.
It wasn't every game. It wasn't it wasn't all the time. They picked their spots. Yeah. Those are like the last 2 defensive players that you saw on offense on a regular basis that could also make a difference. To see a guy who could really do that 40 snaps on both sides, is really going to be awesome.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about Travis Hunter is I think people are forgetting that when he came out, he was the #1 recruit in the country.
Right.
This is not just some dude who's just, been media hyped by prime time and the lights and the glamour and the media. This is the #1 recruit in the country who chose to go to an HBCU for personal reasons and to go with Deion Sanders and things of that nature. And then basically has now become part of Deion's family and went with him to Colorado to play at the next level. This isn't just some dude. This is a guy who was predicted to be the dude and, in my opinion, lived up to all the hype.
Absolutely.
That does not happen very often. So for me, that's another reason why it's not just some guy playing both sides of the ball.
Love it. Love it. All right. Moving on. We got to talk a little bit about the Avs for a moment. You have made a big, and goddamn, I hate telling you you're right. I do. Like something about having to say, Caleb, you were right. Just hurts just deep down in the soul. But you were right.
Thank you.
You were right. And the Avalanche finally said, you know what? We are not going to contend if we have goalies who can't or who are just blind. Like the Avs goalies this season have been blind. They got a couple good games from Justice Anunen for a little bit on a stretch. And then Georgie found he could play for a little stretch. And then they both went back in the tank, and it was like the Avs finally said, we're out. We're done. Got rid of them both. And they got Wedgwood and Blackwood. Kind of funny that both of their names end in Wood. But from Cody, our hockey guy, he says Wedgwood is a good backup and Blackwood is a good starter. He should not lose us games. So that is, as an Avs fan, when you look at the defense hasn't been great. We still have some injuries we're dealing with. We're not at full strength. But a lot, again, we just need our goalie to only give up 2 or 3 goals. That's it. We're not asking for a whole lot. Just give up 2 or 3, and we will we'll put enough behind the net to win.
Be interesting to see how this works moving forward, because there are people who have the Avs as kind of one of the 3rd or 4th kind of options as Stanley Cup favorites this year to start the season. They still got a lot of talent on that team. You're talking about Rantanen with a hat trick tonight. You still got Makar and you still got McKinnon.
And you still got Nushkin. Still got
I just
Ross Colton.
That top line that you have is still one of the best in the league. So it's not like they're devoid of talent by any means, and they just went out and made some crazy goalie move thinking it's going to fix everything. Their weak link was goaltending. And while they didn't go out and get your all-star, your Hall of Famer kind of caliber guy, they got a couple solid dudes whose save percentages this year have been better than what they already had in net. So like Bingy said, you can get us to 2 or 3 goals instead of 4 or 5. we feel like we can win a lot more games with what we have in front of you, and that completely can change the trajectory of the Western Conference standings potentially. And instead of the Avs battling for one of the wild cards, you know, there's enough talent on that team that can make a run and contend for the division now. And that could change seeding and a lot of others. So
yeah,
it's interesting. It's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I was just talking about I was Lehkonen I was thinking of, who just came back recently.
Arturi Lehkonen, really good. Yep.
Yeah, Nushkin, I believe, is expected Friday. Nushkin is expected to be back.
And there's still some hope. And I'm not high hope, but Gabriel Landeskog had the same surgery that I'm
sorry. Nushkin's already back.
Okay, cool.
He came back last week. He scored a goal tonight.
Landeskog had the same surgery that Lonzo Ball had. And Lonzo Ball is back this season. He actually looks pretty good. Gabriel Landeskog had it, I think it was like 4 or 6 months, somewhere in there, after Ball had it. So that would, if the surgery goes as well for him as it did for Ball, you're looking at sometime after the first of the year that we could start hearing about Landeskog on ice in a meaningful way, not just skating around at the facilities, but actually training. I don't have a lot of hope because, everybody's body bounces back from things differently. And Landeskog's older than Ball, by a few years. Running on ice, on skates, is going to affect the body differently than running around on a basketball court. So there's a lot of factors that while they have the same surgery, it may not work out the same. But there is that ray of hope that Ball's back playing NBA level basketball. Same surgery, Landeskog had it. There is, I guess, still a chance that he could come back some point this season and play meaningful NHL hockey.
If they could just get him back towards the end of the year, ready for the playoff push, I think he just lifts up the team. I don't even know if he doesn't even have to play like great hockey, but I think
you make the playoffs and you get that added back into your rotation, even if he's playing half of the shifts that he normally would. That's a true talent on the ice that is anybody would love to have, regardless of the amount of shifts it is. That's a serious impact. So there are a couple interesting things in the Avs right now that could mean something, could mean nothing. But as Avs fans, they're a little light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, more so than there has been.
I'm hoping, buddy. I'm hoping. When the Avs are playing good, it's just fun. It's just fun to watch.
Now, I do have a little bit of NBA news. And this is, I know we just talked about the Avs, so this is going to sound super homerish, like we're on our kick right now. I don't intend it to be because I was going to do this before Pinky jumped into the Avs. But it is what it is. I'm wearing the gear. So
we don't talk Avs very often, so
we don't, and I love it. We don't talk hockey very often, so I love when we talk hockey and we have a reason to. But I'm going to talk early season MVP for the NBA right now. Because we talked about the Heisman. We're going to talk about the NFL MVP here coming up with everything that's going on. I wanted to talk NBA for just a second, and I saw this stat that I ran across over the weekend that it blows my mind. Blows my mind. Because MVP, whether you think it's the best player in the league or the best player on the best team or the most impactful player for their team, I think this kind of sums up what I believe is the early season frontrunner in the NBA right now. And I'm sorry, it has nothing to do with homerism. This is just a stat that blew my mind. The Nuggets, with Jokic on the court, they are first in offensive rating. They are first in net rating. They are first in field goal percentage. They are first in three-point field goal percentage. And they are first in assist to turnover ratio. In the entire NBA, they're first in some of the biggest offensive categories and, frankly, team categories in the NBA. When he's not on the court, they are 30th in offensive rating, 29th in net rating, 30th in field goal percentage, 28th in three-point field goal percentage, and 28th in assist to turnover ratio. They're basically last in every category that they are first in. when he's not on the court. Say what you want about points and rebounds and assists and steals and turnovers and all those other stats that he also is doing insanely good in, okay? Averaging a triple-double on the season. That impact to his team, regardless that he's first or second or third or whatever in all these other numbers, the fact that his team can be such a dichotomy of opposites, I don't even understand how to comprehend that.
This is pretty easy. If Joker got hurt, the Nuggets get the number 1 seed. That's how bad it is. When he's not on the court, that's how bad it is, and that's just the honest truth.
Like I said, save him a year on his body. Go let him play the ponies right now. Grab Cooper Flag, pair him up with Jokic next year, and see what happens. That's your long-term solution right now. Because, look, my brother was going back and forth with me over the weekend, texted me out of nowhere after that loss to Washington. Just bummed out.
Which, again, all I had to see, all I saw, the first headline I saw, Joker scores 56 points.
Career high.
And I immediately knew it was a loss.
Not good. Not good usually when you see that. And my brother said, they got to make a move. And we started kind of talking. And there isn't a move really that the Nuggets can make because they don't really have any valuable pieces that they can move on from that's going to get them, something great in return. So they're in a tough spot right now. And I know a lot of Nuggets fans want to bash on Jamal Murray. Like, sometimes when your body goes, it goes. And there is nothing you can do to control that. I think the reason you see him flash his brilliance and then look just like he can't run around the court anymore is because I think that injury zapped him. I do. I think that leg injury took away years. And he had enough left for that playoff run. He had enough left for last year's playoff run. And you're going to see a lot of hits and misses with him now because his body just, it's failed him. There's nothing he can do about it. His game didn't go away. If you really watch him play, you can see his mind working faster than his body a lot of times. And it just isn't able to keep up with him. So the Nuggets are in a tough spot, real tough spot. But the first time Jokic won an MVP, I think the Nuggets finished 6th or something like that in the West. And he dragged a team that had no business being in the playoffs to the playoffs. And I think you're kind of seeing that again, even on a more insane level, though, with the numbers he's putting up and then what's around him and what he's doing. So, look, there's a lot of great players in the NBA. Giannis is coming on real strong here lately. He's looking insane. Tatum's having a good year. Anthony Davis is having a good year. SGA is coming on. Steph's playing well. There's a ton of talent in the league right now. I love ball. And I love guys who can play every facet of the game at a fundamentally sound level such that it is great. And nobody does that better than Jokic right now. Like, they just don't. And maybe it's because I grew up playing point guard, and so, the assist and the vision and getting other guys involved in the game means a little bit more to me than maybe other people. But watching him read the game and just that basketball IQ he has is just special. And it's, I've said this for years, Pinky, you know it, and people that aren't LeBron fans, I feel sorry for because love him or hate him for whatever reason, the dude is one of the best to ever play the game. Appreciate the greatness while it's here. And whether you think Jokic has an old man game or not from the YMCA, don't worry about it. Because regardless of what he's doing that on a level that no other old man can do.
Right.
In the history of the world. Like, I believe after this season, regardless of what happens with the Nuggets in the playoffs, and regardless of whether or not he wins an MVP, I do believe by the end of this season, his numbers are going to be such that people are going to have to start recognizing him as one of the 20 greatest players to ever play this game. Like, almost unanimously.
But they're
going to have to be in that conversation.
But they're going to fight that notion.
They will
fight that notion.
They will, but I think you're going to have to just deal with it. And I think there's an even bigger conversation if he wins an MVP. If he does get these Nuggets into the playoffs and does something, you could start pushing a conversation for possibly even top 10 all time.
So what needs to happen?
It's like he's just appreciate the greatness, regardless of what you expect it to look like. Understand that it is in front of you, and just watch it and enjoy it.
I feel like it's almost the same thing with like Travis Hunter and the Buffs and hating on Dion. Like they're just hating a guy that doesn't look like your LeBron. He doesn't look like Jordan. He doesn't look like Kobe. God, he's like, to me, he's kind of and not quite the same defender, but he's like the advanced version of Tim Duncan. Like he's consistent. He on offense, like he's on another level than Tim Duncan on offense, and he's not quite as good as he was on defense. But Tim Duncan was Mr. Consistency, and
you could call him a damn. I've never even really thought about this, but I love that comparison, Pinky. And you could call him a matchup between Bird and Duncan.
Like, and I always gave Duncan a lot of shit. He was not fun to watch for the most part. He was
he always got that boring superstar knock.
It was
like the big fundamental is his nickname. Dude just went out and balled.
He put up doubles every night. He just played. At the end of the day, if he's in the conversation for the greatest power forward of all time, he's in that conversation. If you don't have him in that conversation, you're just being an idiot. Like he's absolutely there. But yeah, he's just never the funnest guy to watch. And you're just like, when you see high flyers, you know, Jordan, Kobe, you see them dunking. Like, but they dunk all the time. When you see Joker dunk, you're like, oh yeah. Because he doesn't dunk that often.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. I think it just comes back to the hate. People like they don't possibly, and maybe those are the people who don't know ball. If you don't know ball, you're not gonna like Jokic.
I mean, Stephen A apparently knows ball, and the first thing that guy always says when you talk about Jokic is the man can't jump off a curb, but like he's always got to start it with some like he's not athletic, but kind of thing, and then goes on from there. So,
and that's fine.
Yeah, but like take out of the conversation. Like it doesn't need to be. It's like I've always said about Lamar and the like. We don't need to say he's a running quarterback. He is a quarterback. You don't need to add any adjectives to what's already there to try and describe this player. What position do they play? What are they good at? What do they do? Are they an MVP? So talk about that instead of trying to like demean or belittle what they've done and talk about what they have done.
Look, everybody who says he's unathletic, I'm like, you know what? He is. And guess what? Being the most unathletic guy, superstar you've ever seen, nobody can stop him.
And see,
so what does that say?
I hate that term a little bit because it's like, dude, they're playing in arguably the most athletic sport in the world.
I mean, so there's some arguments there. I mean, soccer.
You know what I said arguably, but I'm just meaning like what you see from size, speed, strength. You don't see dudes doing what the NFL guys the NBA guys are doing in any other sport. You don't see 7-footers running a 4.5 and jumping 13 feet in the air. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So in that regard, anybody playing in the NBA is probably going to have to be somewhat athletic to be able to play at that level.
Yeah. Well, up and down the floor. And when people forget, like, again, Joker runs point a lot. Like, he'll run point.
35 plus minutes a game. Like,
give him his flowers. If you're still hating on him, you're hating. I've been a LeBron hater in the past, but I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to just enjoy greatness while it's here.
I mean, he's throwing up triple doubles left and right now. It's crazy.
He's trying to catch up with Joker, but it ain't happening.
It's not going to happen. Jokic is chasing Westbrook at this point.
But I think JJ's got LeBron playing really good basketball, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why Anthony Davis is playing really good basketball. But I think as sports fans, we need to come off that hate. We need to really sit back, just enjoy what we're seeing. We only get it for a short period of time. Before you know it, we're 10 years older and LeBron's gone and Joker's gone and we've got new guys. And, if you spend your time hating on those players, when you actually finally the light bulb goes on and be like, oh, that guy was a really good player, you missed it.
And some people will never come around. Like, they just won't. They don't like, for whatever reason, they ignore the talent. They don't want to talk about the greatness. So be it. Fine. Deal with it. Move on. Because with us, if you don't have, a take that you can back up with some kind of facts, like, I don't even care if you're twisting numbers to twist numbers in your favor. It's one of the beauties of numbers, in my opinion. You can take stats and you can move them around and make whoever you want look good or bad. It's the beauty of statistics. But if you're just going out there saying, like, well, Travis Hunter isn't the best at any one position, so he's not the Heisman winner. He's top 10 in 2 different positions. That's absurd. Never seen that before. You want to say Jokic shouldn't be the Heisman or the NBA MVP because he's not great on defense or he's not athletic. Well, then you're just listening to some media narrative spun because he's actually got a great defensive rating. That's improved year in and year out. He's gotten incredibly better at that.
Every year he's gotten better.
He's one of the tops in the league right now with steals, actually. And I don't care if you're unathletic. If you can make everybody else around you look not as good as you at basketball. And what's the name of the game of basketball? Oh, yeah, it's to put the orange ball in the round hoop that stands 10 feet off the ground. So if you can do that in a way that everybody else is not as good as you at, then I would say you're really good at the game, regardless of the way you do it. Look at football and all the different types of offenses that you see in college, and then that being adapted to the NFL and things of that nature. There was a lot of people who said the Wildcat could never work in the NFL. And then the Miami Dolphins come in and run it for an entire season to the playoffs.
Wasn't that when they had Ricky Williams?
No,
was that
Cadillac
Ronnie Brown?
Williams. That was, Ronnie Brown, Cadillac. Ronnie Brown and
Cadillac was in Tampa.
Yeah,
but Ronnie Brown was in Miami.
It was Ronnie Brown and somebody else.
I thought they had both of them together, Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams.
Maybe it was Ricky. I don't feel like it was Ricky. It was Ronnie Brown, and I wanted to say Cadillac Williams, but you're right. Cadillac was in Tampa. Who was the other dude? Ronnie Brown was the main one running it. But they had another running back who was pretty solid at the time. That's why they could run it. Now, granted, the next year didn't work as well. Not as many teams had the talent to run it at the same time. And now you cut to the modern NFL now.
Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams were the running backs who ran the Wildcat formation for the Dolphins.
All right, nice. Good call, Pinky. Good call. And now it's part of the game in the NFL, right? So everybody wants to hate on the Europeans, but sorry, I actually prefer watching them play basketball right now at the NBA level as far as those superstars go, because they're more likely to play a fundamentally sound full game of basketball rather than just be a really good dunker who jacks up threes or, somebody who's really good at handling the ball and really fast but can't shoot. There's too many guys in the NBA from an American standpoint who went through the AAU system that you don't practice. You just play a bunch of games. You don't develop your fundamentals. You don't develop your game. Now, don't get me wrong. There's exceptions. Kyrie Irving is insane. There's guys who have insane fundamentals in the NBA who are from the American side, but a lot of the Europeans have really great fundamentals. And you look at a team like Houston this year and Seguin, who a lot of people are calling the next Jokic. They've moved off Sabonis. Now they're going to Seguin. But Sabonis, Jokic, Seguin, big dudes, European players that have a full game. So they play all aspects of the game. And I truly appreciate watching guys who are going to play the entire game.
Well, they make such a difference with the rebounding, the assists, and some of the scoring. I mean, Sabonis, if he could score like Joker, he'd be right there, but he can't. He just doesn't have the touch. He doesn't have that touch.
Seguin's kind of the same way in that regard.
Right.
Still developing. Now, Luka, really good. None of these guys play great defense, but none of them are necessarily terrible at defense when they try. But the NBA as a whole doesn't really play defense. So if I'm going to watch the offensive side, do I want a guy who can jump 13 feet out of the gym, catch a lob, and throw it down? Or do I want a guy who can shoot, dribble, and pass? I've always preferred the fundamentals over the highlight reel, especially when you have court vision and you're getting your teammates involved. And again, that coming from my point guard background, if you will, fine. But team basketball, true team basketball, when that ball is whipping around the court and you're just getting the best look for the best guy at that best moment. I mean, that's why Golden State became so good. They just happen to have Steph Curry, who could also create some really crazy shots when they needed it. But it's not like he wasn't running all over the court, and Klay Thompson wasn't running all over the court off of screens and ball movement and things of that nature while the ball was moving to get them open. So there was still, it wasn't just an ISO one-on-one, I'm going to try to beat you game, right? There was team involvement and movement, and that's what I love to see. So it feels like some of that's starting to come back to the NBA. We're kind of moving in that direction, which I truly hope happens, because the more skilled each individual player gets from a fundamental level only increases the ability of the team level to get better, and you see more team involvement. And when you see more teams playing a la OKC, Denver, Boston, Cleveland, Golden State, the league is more fun to watch.
Right.
Because
absolutely.
there's more teams playing at a high level because those teams are playing team basketball. So I'm excited to see how this progresses towards Christmas and then into the All-Star break, because, I mean, Cleveland's playing really good. They're leading the East. Golden State's still playing solid basketball, where most people thought they'd be in the bottom half in the gutter. What does Denver do? Does Jokic play the whole season and drag them through into the playoffs, and then they could be considered dangerous because it's a series?
I still think they're a 4th, 5th seed in the West when it's all said and done.
There's 7 now, so, we'll see what happens. Does Miami finally blow it up? Do they move off Jimmy Butler?
I think it's time, man.
Who makes a big move? Can Denver find a big move to get back into true contention? Does New York do something else? They're kind of sputtering right now. Does Milwaukee? They've rough start, but they won like 8 in a row out of nowhere. Now they're right back in the
I'm just happy Minnesota sucks. I'm happy about that.
Minnesota's having a rough year. They're having a rough time trying to put these pieces together for sure. Which is crazy because of the talent on that team. But I still think they got to move Gobert. I think he just eats minutes that waste other guys' potential and talent.
I just don't think you can get anything. I don't think you could get.
It is what it is at this point. It is
when you gave up so much for him. I feel like you want so much in return. You're not going to get that return.
Again, I didn't think the cap for Randall. That's why I thought New York kind of originally won the trade. And then I kind of backed off of that because I thought this would mean more meaningful minutes for Naz Reid, which it hasn't. There's a lot of things going on in Minnesota that they got to figure out. So there's a lot of storylines. I could keep talking, but I know we want to move into the NFL now. So
we're about time.
We've given you enough of the tidbits to kind of go look that up and read about it a little bit. You'll get caught up on the NBA a little bit here and there.
So where do you want to start for last week?
Well, something I've been thinking about, and I brought this up previously.
Banking's dangerous for you. It's dangerous, my friend.
Well, it happens from time to time, and we have to deal with it. But I brought this up 2 weeks ago, I think, when I gave the blind comparison between Darnold and Goff, and then kind of talked about Minnesota being underrated on a lot of people's radars. We talked about Green Bay. We talked about Detroit. I think after this week of games, to me, the NFC North only became even more impressive. And I still believe any of those 3 teams could win the NFC. And I think all 3 of those teams are the top dog, if you will, as far as favorites. Now, Detroit might have a slight edge just because, the fact that They are the 1 seed. They are sitting in that top bye week position. But I think all three of those teams could easily win the NFC on any given Sunday. And one other thing I think that just got really interesting, especially after this last weekend and the way Darnold played, is what does Minnesota do moving forward? Because if you're watching what Darnold's doing this year, you have nothing to lead you to believe that it can't continue and only get better under Kevin O'Connell. I mean, he was a top 3 pick in the NFL for a reason back when he was drafted. And you're starting to see some of that potential finally come to fruition. You might have the best passing game in the NFC, maybe the NFL, with Addison and Hawkinson and Jay Jetta. Darnold is getting the ball to him in a big way. But you did draft a quarterback in the top 10 last year who, by all accounts, had a great preseason and training camp. And there was rumblings of maybe even him getting the start.
This is without a doubt, as we move into the offseason, one of the craziest conversations to have.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. And I've been a big Darnold believer, supporter, that if he ever got the right opportunity,
that you have
truly, gave him a real legit chance to start with talent around him, he would prove to be really good. I think he's doing that. So I'm not trying to make this a big Sam Darnold thing. I just think the decisions Minnesota will have to make this offseason, because he's a free agent. So they're either going to have to sign him and pay him, or he can go elsewhere. Now, I do think the one benefit they have in their favor is, he's 27, right? So you could easily sign him to a 10-year deal and not feel bad about it at all. But I think the one thing they have in their favor is Darnold's seen and been privy to firsthand what life outside a bad situation looks like. Or, I mean, what life outside a good situation looks like and what a bad situation in the NFL looks like.
Right.
To the point where he could be willing to, cut a little bit of a hometown discount. He may be willing to take slightly less than market value to stay in that situation rather than go somewhere and get the big bucks.
I feel like the Daniel Jones or Baker Mayfield treatment is kind of where Darnold is right now. Right?
I think he'd be willing to do that because it gives him long-term stability and the chance to stay your starter. I think he would be willing to do that. So I would be surprised if Minnesota didn't make that deal, but still, you go to you take that money and you put it into other aspects of your roster and you roll with that rookie quarterback contract. If JJ was having that good of an offseason and you think he could truly develop and play as well, almost as well as Darnold is this year, and you can put that money into other holes that you might see, the team could be just as good if you truly believe JJ can do that. But I think Darnold's only going to get better.
Yeah. Dreamweaver. Yep. Hat trick from Miko. He had a great game. Here's what's going to happen. Darnold gets you the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl. You give him that 3-year deal with that third year where you can get out of it, right? You put a lot of guaranteed money up front. He gets it. That third year you can get out of it, because then you still have 2 years left of JJ, right? You fall short. I think you roll with JJ. You let Sam go elsewhere, but it's so interesting because Sam's played really well. I am not a believer in Sam Darnold, but he's being a really good point guard. He has had some lulls this season. The last couple of weeks, he's not been amazing.
This last weekend he was 5 touchdowns. 350 yards.
I am a Justin Jefferson fantasy owner, and for the last 4 weeks, he's done barely anything. Yeah. Jordan Addison's been amazing. Jefferson's not done shit. This last week, they both ate.
Yeah.
If you feed both of them, absolutely could happen. But they're just, I don't know. I don't know.
Imagine them getting a Genty or someone at the top of the draft in the running back room and bringing him in and then adding a couple offensive linemen.
That's crazy.
Defense is really good.
That's crazy talk. That's crazy talk.
I'm just saying, like, they're in a, and I could easily see them doing the sign Darnold and keep JJ route and just be like, look, Green Bay's done it twice now, and it worked out really well for them, and they're in our division. Why can't it work out really well for us? And I was originally thinking like a 6 to 8 year deal, Pinky, that's kind of front end loaded, but does give you an out after like 2 or 3 years, for that exact reason. Because if it does not work out, then you get out, JJ runs it, and you're good. The reason I was thinking slightly more years, though, is because if it does work and he does keep getting better, you've got him locked in at a really good deal still. And as long as you have that out after
they won't do that,
3, I think that'd be the smart play, personally.
I think this is going to be your 3-year extension with, most of it front loaded for the first 2 seasons. With that 3rd year, they could cut them and take they'll take a cap hit, but it won't be gigantic.
I get why you say it, because you want to try to stay within JJ's rookie window and think you just move on to him. But if Darnold plays, I mean, like he's playing now, which is right on the cusp of top 10, and let's say he does only get better with that young wide receiving core and everything else they have going for them right now, if you do only do that 3-year deal, you're going to have to re-sign him after 3 years and then pay him even more money, like top dollar money at that point. So my thought with the 6 to 8 year deal with the 3-year out or the team option after 3 years is you're kind of covering yourself on both ends of that spectrum.
But there's nothing for Darnold in that deal, though.
There could be if you're getting.
Because for Darnold, why wouldn't you rather just give me my money now? And if you want to get out after 3 years, I can still go somewhere else. Because
I think he's in such a unique situation that he's seen what bad can really be. And he's more about, I just want to play as a starter with a good franchise and a good team. And if you can pay me $50 million a year, I'm great with that. And I think that's kind of what and I don't have anything to support this, right? Like, that's just kind of how I'm reading the insanely distant tea leaves that I have available to me, that I believe he'd be willing to do something like that. And I think that would be a win-win for both organization and player in that situation. Because at that point, if he's playing top 10, like, you stay with him, you're winning a lot of games. You may never go to JJ, but that's okay. Like, you can always just trade him if you have to. Or if he's playing that well and JJ's going to be really good, similar to what Green Bay's done, you move on from Darnold and you trade him, and then you bring JJ in because now Darnold's playing really well and it is a legit trade asset. So it's just an insanely unique situation for me that I thought Darnold was capable of, but I never thought he'd actually get the opportunity. And now that he has it, it's in a situation where I didn't think he'd be in, where there is a rookie behind him who there was a lot of hope for and a lot of positive conversation around. But he's playing so well that now what do you do? It's just very unique, and it seems like only Green Bay has ever had this happen to them.
Yeah, but in Green Bay's situation, Rodgers was under contract. So again, there wasn't Darnold is a true free agent.
Right, exactly. And that's why it's even more unique. Like, what do you do? What do you do? So
I got a feeling
that teams, Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit, they're really good football teams.
I don't think we'll be shocked if any one of those teams makes the championship game or the Super Bowl.
I think the only other team you put in the conversation in the Super Bowl is the Philadelphia Eagles right now in the NFC.
Right.
Is there anybody else that you would say is a serious contender?
No.
I think if I had to pick a dark horse, it would be the Rams, just because that offense can be so insanely good at times. But they seem to show up one week and not show up the next.
Again, that offense can be insanely good, and then just like if you can disrupt those routes just a little bit, put a little pressure on Stafford, like you can change it up.
Stop the run game. I mean, everything they do runs off the run game. So if you can slow that down, maybe you help it. But I would say it's the 3 NFC North teams, Philly, and then my dark horse, if I had to pick one right now, would be the Rams, especially after watching what they did this last weekend. So, but outside of that, I don't think there's anybody truly that contend. And the Rams are only a dark horse because that offense gets so crazy hot. I don't think anybody else in the NFC could potentially have an offense that can be that dangerous outside of those 5.
Yeah, those guys are. The Rams can hang with anybody.
I wanted to talk about Philly real quick as well. Have you been hearing this report, these rumors?
Oh, you can see it, man.
Dude,
I don't even need to hear. I don't even need to see a report. You just
remember
watch the
how
game.
stoked they were with their FaceTime when he got traded? And now you got him calling out AJ Brown, calling out basically Jalen Hurts in the media and interviews post game.
You know what AJ Brown's problem is? The identity of the Philadelphia Eagles is run the fucking football.
Yep.
That's their identity.
Yep.
And when they run the football the way they are, that leads to some big plays from AJ Brown, but he's not consistently getting, 10, 15 targets. It's just not there. And again, I can understand from a wide receiver, a top 5, 10 wide receiver conversation to be had there.
Sure.
He wants the ball. They all do. I understand.
It's interesting though. Like I could see him talking about that in one way, but it's interesting to me that all the reports truly are. And Graham came out. I think it was Graham, and basically said so much that they're not buddies anymore. They're not. They were really close before. They're not anymore, and basically blamed it on Brown. Like one's been doing what he needs to. 11 could do better, I think was his quote or something along those lines. So I know earlier in the year we kind of bashed Sirianni and said, man, you could be the issue with this team. And now I'm kind of sitting here going after the way that's gone since we said that, like, all right, actually, you're probably pretty solid, coach, like we originally thought. So we can go back to that. And you're managing a lot of personalities. Good for you. And your team is winning. And you found an identity. And you got your team rolling in the right direction. Now, what a really great coach does is they find a way to squash this enough for your team to continue to win. So can he take that next step? I mean, look, Andy Reid almost did it with T.O. and McNabb. He did get the team to the Super Bowl. They just couldn't close it all the way out. So it takes a lot to manage a lot of personalities. And I think that's one of the reasons, kind of different sport, but I think that's one of the reasons Phil Jackson is considered by a lot of people the GOAT of the NBA is because, yeah, he won a lot of rings, but to be able to win, you have to be able to manage personalities. And the personalities he had to manage and get to continue to win and grow and congeal, if you will, as a team, that's some big stuff. So that's a lot of what he did. That's what a lot of great coaches do. Can you play therapist, if you will, in a sense, to a lot of grown men and get them to buy into the same message, regardless of how many different ways you have to tell that message to a different individual. So that it's interesting with Philadelphia. Their defense is really starting to figure it out with all those young dudes. That offense is always dangerous because of the number of pieces they have. And you got Saquon and Jalen Hurts in the backfield who can run all over you for days. Then you've got Devontae Smith, Goddard, and A.J. Brown on the outside. And it's still one of the top 5, 10 offensive lines in the league. I mean, dude.
The biggest issue I have, and I understand, AJ, you're not touching 1,500 yards. You're not getting 15 touchdowns. I get it. But you're winning. You're winning. You already got paid. You've got money coming in. It's not if he was trying to get paid, trying to get that next contract and get paid, I get it a little bit. I get it. Because nobody's going to look at those numbers and be like, yeah, we're going to give you $30 million a year. It's not going to happen. So I understand that part of it.
I mean, I agree with you. I could also understand if he's like, look, I'm pissed off. Yeah, we're winning, and I love the fact that we're winning. But I want to be more of a contributor for those wins. That's just my nature. I'm a competitor. I want the ball in my hands. But I understand what the team is doing, and I'm all in on that. But
what have we seen? And again, this comes back to a little bit about the quarterback. Jalen Hurts, sometimes when he's on, he's on. And when he's off, he is off.
Yeah, some games he sees the field a lot better than others. And there's been examples of plays where Brown was wide open and he checked it down instead because he didn't see the field the right way. But I feel like you can pick that out of any NFL quarterback. Like, dude, wide open, why didn't you throw it to him? Why'd you check it down? Why weren't you looking over there? This, that, and the other. Like, you were right, spot on to begin with. Their identity of the team is to run the ball. And Jalen Hurts does enough in the passing game to let those guys eat enough to where you still consider A.J. Brown a top possibly 5 to 10 receiver in the league. Like,
it comes back to what's most important to you, A.J.? Is it your numbers? Or is it getting that ring you guys didn't get?
Yeah.
You know, you have to make that decision. And money's a thing. I get it. You got paid, though. You've got your money. You know, for some wide receivers like T. Higgins. T. Higgins wants to get production and win. He ain't getting it, right? He wants to get paid. So, AJ, you got paid. You're good. Now, next year, you guys win a Super Bowl next year. Could you have some beef? I'm sure. But you're winning. You're on a winning streak. That's crazy. Be that contributor. Be that leader. Suck it up. And again, maybe on the next go-around, you let them know, hey, I don't want to re-sign here. I don't want to play with Jalen.
Well, it'll be interesting. Like you said, winning streak and everything else that's going into it. Can they manage the personalities enough to continue to win? Because we've seen plenty of examples in professional sports where that breaks up the goodwill, if you will, and the team doesn't end up getting it done.
I don't think this is a hot take at all. There is one team the Detroit Lions don't want to see, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles.
Hell yeah, man. Defense can disrupt the quarterback right up the middle, and they've got an offense that can go right at your weakness right now. So, yeah.
Like the Detroit Lions are like, look, Eagles, if we see you, it's the NFC Championship game. We don't want to see you before then. And we're hoping that somebody knocks you off in the meantime, which can happen. I don't think the Eagles are the most dominant that they could be. Because, again, it just seems like there's something off when they are they're not forced to pass a lot because Saquon's been awesome. But when they are forced to pass, something doesn't look quite right.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. Now, I question whether that's play calling, quarterback, or just the fact that all their major offensive pieces have had injuries as far as the passing game this year and been out for some time. So, you know, when you're not able to be on the field a lot, football more than any other sport is all about that timing and building that rapport, if you will. And a lot of that's done in practice. And if you can't practice for 3 or 4 weeks, it can throw off a lot of stuff. So there's just a lot of question marks with the Eagles. But like you said, I think it's a 9-game win streak right now or something like that. They're playing really good ball. I said this about college, and I don't think there's one dominant team who just looks like the clear-cut favorite. I feel the exact same way about the NFL. Not just the NFC, but the AFC too. You look, Josh Allen, and we'll get to the MVP to end the show here, but dude is just playing phenomenal football right now. And yet they still lost. They still lost that game. Look, 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, and they still lost that game.
And they still lost. And you know what was the funniest? What was the funniest part of that whole game? Tom Brady was commentating on that game, and he was straight like, I don't know why you're running at the goal line there. You've got to throw the ball and make it sure the clock's not running because you want to be able to kick and take your timeouts versus having to kick the onside kick. And you know what? He was right.
Yeah, but you know what's really funny about that, and I haven't heard anybody say this, and I was saving it for this little episode of ours, if you will. What do you think Tom Brady and the Patriots would have done at the 1-yard line right there? I think they would have QB snuck because they love to do that on 4th and goal, 4th and short, 4th and anything.
Did, but Tom Brady
was really good, underrated in the history of the game at QB sneaks. People do not remember it, and I don't think he gets enough credit. Underrated at QB sneaks. I believe they would have done the exact same thing in that position. That's why it's
what
funny.
would Tom?
I think him commenting.
What would Tom Brady have done at the one there that Josh Allen did not do?
Get down, get
No.
low,
No.
go over the top. You think?
Over the top.
He would have.
Josh Allen is like 6'6". That ball, if you go up and just reach out, it's over the goal line.
Probably.
He went down. He tried to use his muscle and go down. That's going to work a lot. There are going to be a couple moments when you go down, like you just can't get the movement. If he goes up Superman style with the ball across, it's good. So
I didn't hate the play call. I know a lot of people were bashing it because then they had to use a timeout, and that pretty much lost the game for them. I didn't hate it. It was a great game, back and forth. It's part of the reason why I say the Rams are, a dark horse in the NFC, because their offense showed up out of nowhere.
When you talk about team football, what part of that Buffalo's team let that team down?
The defense.
On Sunday? That defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
That defense. So, again, the offense put up 42 points, man. You put up 42 points, you should win the game.
But Buffalo is missing a lot of key pieces on defense that, for the most part, they've been able to overcome this year. A lot of key names that are out that they've been able to overcome this year for the most part.
But what's the one thing that people probably – can you name the one thing about the Rams that people probably didn't comment about? That was a desperate Rams team.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. They
had to have this game at home. They had to have it.
For sure.
And you could say that Stafford, Puka, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, they all played lights out. Like this was a playoff game for them. They had to get this game.
Which, talent-wise, this is what we expected to see from that offense all season, really. I mean, if we're being honest about it. So, nothing too crazy. Now, I will say on the AFC side, Buffalo was chasing...
Hold on. Before we go there real quick. Is Puka not just amazing?
Yeah, but I thought we were already done talking about the Rams.
We had talked about Puka. I got a comment about Puka.
We moved into the AFC, Pinky. We done with the AFC. We moved into the AFC.
You started to move. I got to talk about Puka for a moment. I watched that guy play. Like, his hands, his routes, his toughness, his blocking. That kid's awesome.
He's really good.
And I just want to give him some flowers, Caleb, before we moved on, because like Cooper Kupp has taken the back seat to Puka. And when Puka is healthy and you have Cooper Kupp, these guys are very dangerous. Right now, the Rams are not in the playoffs as it stands today.
Right now.
The NFC teams better hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
Because if I'm the Eagles at 2, if I'm the 3 seed, which 3 seed would be the Seahawks, I do not want to see the Rams coming into my house.
Not if they're full strength. Definitely not. Definitely not.
AFC. Now we can move over.
Okay. So Bills chasing KC for that 1 seed. They have the tiebreaker because they have the head-to-head win. But then they lose this game, and KC finds another way to pull one out. And they just keep finding ways to win. And now they have basically a game and a half on the Bills, because I would say 2 games because that's the record.
Right.
But I call it a game and a half because of that tiebreaker that the Bills have with them.
It's a game and a half.
You understand where I'm going. So that gives KC a lot more breathing room, because they could lose one of these next 4 and still be the 1 seed. And that means everybody's still got to go into, Kansas City in January. And that's not a fun place to go play in January. And that stadium and that crowd and those fans and that weather and the fact that they're 2-time defending Super Bowl champions and they still have what many consider the best quarterback in the league, and the coach and the tight end and the defense. And that is a big loss for Buffalo in the grand scheme of the seeding in the playoffs for the AFC. It's a big loss.
It's huge for Buffalo. Kansas City's got Cleveland. Who do they got next week? So they've got Cleveland this week, which again, they're going to Cleveland. What Jameis do we get, right? What Jameis do we get?
Game.
I'm not even the Chiefs should win. But if the Browns won in Cleveland, I wouldn't be shocked.
Wouldn't be surprised, sure.
Then they play the Texans.
Texans are okay. Up and down. I think we kind of know what they are this year, but they're not bad. So if Casey keeps running on 5 cylinders instead of 8, it could be a bad look.
Look, I would say for a while this season, I was not excited about this next game. Looking into the future. Christmas Day. Pittsburgh. Or Chiefs in Pittsburgh against the Steelers.
Yeah.
So
again, that leads me into the next thought I had. I think there's 4 teams in the AFC right now that are legit contenders. I think there's 4 teams in my mind. It's Buffalo, it's Kansas City, it's Baltimore, and it's Pittsburgh. Now, I think there's a couple teams on the outside just looking in that I kind of see as dark horses, kind of like I do LA. I think Denver is actually one of those, surprisingly, because that offense seems to get a little bit better every week, and that defense is one of the best in the league. And Denver is fairly all right at running the ball. Really good defense, solid offense. That is playoff football in the NFL.
Well, here's what I would tell you in the AFC. I think you're absolutely right. You've got your 4 teams that are contenders. I think the Chargers and the Broncos are both teams that if they play the right, they play the right team, they match up well.
The Chargers was my other dark horse I was going to mention.
Well, you mentioned them. You said Chargers.
No, I think they're a dark horse. I said Buffalo, KC, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. And then I said I have a couple dark horses, Denver, and then I was going to let you jump in.
We can go back and roll the tape, but you said Chargers before you said Denver. You mentioned the Chargers.
I feel like I did, but good. Good. All right, cool.
And now again, what do they have? They have really good head coaches. They both have really good defenses. They both have quarterbacks that can. And that's scary. Again, for me, the Chargers and the Broncos don't match up with the Ravens. They just don't. Mm-mm. If they play those 2 teams, if they play the Ravens, not going to go well. I don't think the Chargers or Denver matches up with the Bills with a running quarterback. I don't think they match up well. If Denver or LA plays Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Houston, I think they match up really well with those teams.
Yeah.
And I won't be shocked if they beat those teams. Baltimore and Buffalo are the 2 teams. Like certain teams don't match up with those 2 teams.
Well, and you're also talking about quarterbacks who are just playing at an insane level this year. Patrick Mahomes can still go out and do Patrick Mahomes things, so you're always worried about KC. But the way Lamar and Josh Allen are playing this year are just at a level where you're like, I don't even know what to do to stop them. Like, figure it out.
How do you beat KC this year? Be up 14 points with 5 minutes left. Like, that's how you beat KC. Stop letting them hang around. Stop making mistakes in the fourth. You have to play a perfect game to beat them where they're at right now. Because if you give them the ball down 3,
as we just saw this
Mahomes
weekend,
is going to score 7, and it's over. That's just what's going to happen. So, and again, correlation. It's so funny. Rich Eisen was talking about the Rich Eisen show, and one of the, guys that are on the show with him is one of his producers is a big Pats fan, and Rich Eisen was making the comparison to the Patriots. Right, the Chiefs are currently in a dynasty run, like the Patriots, and so now everybody's hating on them. And this Patriots fan was trying to make the case, well, no, we didn't have all like America's sick of the Chiefs because they're on all the commercials and they're on this and they're on that. You got Travis Kelce doing all this extra stuff, and you got Taylor Swift there, and you've got all the eyes are on him. I was like, well, that's true. But at the end of the day, the Patriots were just as lucky with some of the ways that they won football games as the Chiefs are now. Like it's exactly the same thing. And he just was not having it.
Kickers that played for that dynasty that are considered some of the best kickers to ever play in the NFL. in Vinatieri and Gostkowski. Like, hitting a bunch of game-winning field goals. Don't act like you were blowing everybody out. Like, come on now. Like, kickers don't make name for themselves on bad teams.
Look, during
if we know who your kicker is, you're probably winning games for a reason.
During both of the Patriots' runs, they were really damn good in situational football.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Chiefs, as much as we may not like them, are really damn good in situational football. Now, they can get some breaks here and there, and that happens. It happens. But most of the time, they keep you from scoring 24 points or more, and they keep it close, and then you make a mistake at the end, and they come back and bite you. That's what happens.
Now,
so don't let it happen. If you want to beat the Chiefs, don't let it happen.
My biggest what if, my biggest dark horse, who I still believe has a legit chance because the numbers say they do, and this is the team I don't think anybody on either side of the divisions or the conferences would want to see, and that's Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And they are still, technically speaking, in contention to make the playoffs. Yeah, they'd have to have a lot of things fall their way. They'd have to win out, this, that, and the other. But if they do that, it means the defense has found a way to get at least to middle of the road. And I know I said Minnesota might have the best passing game in the NFL, at least in the NFC, the way they're going right now. Cincinnati could definitely say, hold my beer. And they could do that with just Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and nobody else. But then you add in the fact that Burrow distributes the ball so well to his tight ends. They also have T. Higgins, who I have believed this whole time is a number one. He just is a 1A because Jamar Chase might be the best wide receiver in the league. T. Higgins is still a 1 talent. He can still be a 1 on a lot of teams. And Joe Burrow, record's not going to give it to him, but stats say he's the MVP of the NFL right now.
If they had a winning record right now, we're all talking about Joe Burrow as the MVP.
So before we move into the MVP conversation and we finish off kind of talking about just the teams on both sides of the conferences, I don't think there's one true dominant team in the AFC, just like I don't think there's a true dominant team in the NFC, and I could see a lot of teams pass into this, same as what I was saying about college. The Cincinnati Bengals, if they find a way to bungle their way in the playoffs after everything that's happened this year, I could easily see them being the most dangerous team in the playoffs. And the one team that nobody would want to see, nobody would want to play, because if that happens, they became the hottest team in the NFL to win out and get in. And with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and whatever wide receivers they want to throw in behind them, Gesicki and some of the other tight ends they've run out there, Chase Brown looking like a legit top 10 running back in the league right now, the way he's playing behind Joe Burrow, nobody would want to have to see them in the playoffs. So all things considered, we kind of see like the pitchers kind of getting set. There's a clear path for some. Playoff positions are starting to be solidified and guaranteed, but there's still some back end stuff that's going to happen. The Rams, like Binky said, are not in the playoffs right now, but their offense keeps playing like that. They will get in and nobody will want to see them. The Bengals are not in the playoffs right now, and they need some things to fall their way to get to that point, to even get to that 7th wild card spot. But if they did, it means they started playing some football that is probably the best in the NFL. So, nobody would want to see them either.
So the Bengals play the Titans this week.
Yep.
Then they play...
Wait, real quick. Before you give the rest of the schedule, they were 5-point dogs to Dallas in Dallas.
That made no sense to me.
Me neither. Now, Dallas found a new way to lose a game, which I hadn't thought about, which is the muff punt.
When's the last time that happened?
I don't even know, dude.
I know. I was there. The last time a muffed punt happened and the team recovered was Dallas and Denver. And I was there with Aaron Blair.
Dallas? Okay, fun.
In Dallas.
Fun.
Now, it didn't decide the outcome of the game because we still kicked the shit out of them.
Right.
But
yeah, that was a new way to lose a game on Dallas's part. So, Bengals, they got something that they could do.
The Bengals have had so many of those things happen against them.
Oh yeah.
That it just felt like, okay, this felt right. Like it just felt right.
Yeah.
The Bengals are in good position because they do play the Titans. Then they play the Browns. And if they were to beat both of those teams, they would now be 7-8. And then they play Denver. The problem they have is they've dug such a hole that if Denver wins like 2 games, any 2 games, they're out.
Right. I know it's a long shot. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, Denver is one of the dark horses along with the Chargers. But a dark horse for me, like the team, if they got in, I don't think anybody would want to see. I could see them going all the way to the Super Bowl and cruising. Is Cincinnati, because that offense is just so potent.
But that defense is so bad right now.
So bad. And look, we both expected that to be at least top 15. Right? We both expected that defense to be at least top 15 this year, and they are nowhere close.
Are the first team in NFL history to lose 4 games scoring over 30 points.
Yeah. Yeah, like, well, to finish it off,
that's epic.
To go into the MVP discussion, most losses with 300 pass yards and 3 pass touchdowns. Blake Bortles has 4 of those. Drew Brees has 4 of those. Oh, and this is in a single season. Sorry, not like
season.
Career.
Okay. That's what I was wanting to make sure.
Yeah,
in a
sorry.
Season.
It's in a single season. Bortles had 4 back in 2015, which is that year they went to the AFC Championship against the Patriots, and it looked like they could have
2016.
Oh, was that 16? Okay, so
yeah. Broncos won 15. So
Bortles had. Oh yeah, good call. Bortles had some good games here and there out of nowhere. So that's part of the reason he got to keep his job as long as he did. Drew Brees is the other one with 4. He did that in 2016. So him and Bortles were right there. And then you've got Joe Burrow this year with 5. 5 games with 300 pass yards and 3 touchdowns, and you lose. That's crazy. That's crazy. Your quarterback plays like that, you almost figure you're guaranteed to win. So, like I said, Joe Burrow might very well be the MVP right now if the Bengals at least had a 500 record, right? Like, they're just 500 and in true playoff contention and not just hoping right now. He might be the MVP favorite. But, we've gone back and forth week and week. That's what we love to do with these awards, is talk about them week to week and who's kind of the front runner, who's in the lead, who's falling behind. Dude, I don't know how after watching this last weekend you don't have Josh Allen as your favorite right
now. Yeah, and again, I mean, I feel like if the Bengals had a winning record, Burrow would be the MVP, but they don't. So yeah, it's Josh Allen. If Josh Allen right now is putting that stamp on it, we've got 4 games left, so it's still close. I think right now your top 3 is Allen, Barkley, and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Lamar could easily play his back way into this and take the lead with 2 insane games, which he's incredibly capable of. Barkley could edge this out by the end of the year if he can break Eric Dickerson's rushing record. And he would also have the all-time, most likely, have the all-time scrimmage yards record as well. Not just the rushing record, but the scrimmage yards record. I think if he does that, you could be looking at the MVP. If he doesn't do that, if Lamar doesn't go insanely hot in the next couple of games, Josh Allen's just been playing steady, really good football all season. It would be hard for me to see him losing the award. I don't think he's going to have any bad games where he loses it, but I could see those other two doing some things that would step up and take over.
Caleb, how many yards does Barkley have right now? Can you pull that up?
Isn't he at like 1,700? Give me a second. I'll have it.
I don't think he's at 17. I think he's at 17 scrimmage yards, but
that might be what it is. Hang on. I'll have it in just a second. He is at 1623.
All right. 1623. He needs 2108.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So this week, he plays the Steelers.
4 games left.
He plays the Steelers this week.
Really good defense, but he's been running all over. Really, let's say he just gets, just over 100. Let's just say he gets around 100 this week.
Then he's got the Commanders.
I'm going to call that 175.
I'm going to call that over 100.
Okay.
He'll get over 100. Whatever that is, he'll get over 100.
Let's say between those 2 games, he's hovering around 300 yards after those 2 games.
That puts him at 19-something. Then he plays the Cowboys. We already know he's going to put up 150.
Let's just say this. In those 3 games, let's say his average sits at, let's call it 140. Okay? So that's 420 yards right there.
Has he broke the record yet?
No, but then he goes into the last week needing, let's call it 80 yards.
So here's the conundrum, though. That last week, if they are still locked into the 2 seed, is there any reason to play him against the Giants?
Hell yeah, for that record. If he wants it, I think a player should have an opportunity to go do something if they want it. And Sirianni, there's that sideline tape this season, when Barkley had the chance to break the single game record. And he went up to Barkley and he said, "Hey, man, it's yours if you want it. I'd like to see you get it. You want to go back in?" And he's like, "Nah, let the young guys eat."
Which makes me feel like if he gets to 2,000, I feel like he'd be like, I'm good.
I think if he's within striking distance, like 100, 120 yards, I think he goes for it. I truly do.
And Fernando, I would agree with you, my friend.
Yeah, that's what we're saying, my guy.
If he were to rush, if he breaks that record that has stood for many, many years, he's MVP. And I feel like a running back shouldn't have to do that to get that consideration. I know the last time a running back won MVP.
AP.
Do you know when that was?
I don't remember what year, but it was AP when he broke 2,000.
It was 2012. AP broke 2,000. Peyton Manning had over 4,000 some yards, 30 some touchdowns.
Yeah, Minnesota didn't have a great record. The team wasn't all that good. So, there's.
But he was, 7 yards short of the record? I mean, AP really went off. Like, you can't, he was really awesome. Like, did Peyton Manning do anything that year that we hadn't seen in a while? No. Did AP do something that year that we hadn't seen? Yes.
Barkley's just crazy. Just absurd. And I think if he has a chance to go for the record, they will go for it. I do. But I think he's going to have to be within 100 yards for that.
I mean, we all know. I mean, we're Broncos fans, so we all know about Terrell Davis. Like Terrell Davis needed like 160 yards to break 2,000. And they were already up. He didn't need to go for it. And they were like, the offensive linemen were like, I don't care if you're hurt. You're getting this goddamn record for us.
Yeah, when you're talking records, guys want to be a part of that. Now, the kicker is, it would be in 17 games instead of 16.
Right.
So I don't believe that's an asterisk type of thing because the game evolved. Jim Brown had it when it was 14 games this season, and then
what
it
I
went to 16,
what I look at it
now
is
17. So
the way that the defenses have changed, the way that we throw the football more than run it, as fast as the defenders are these days, like I feel like it's harder to run the ball effectively, and that comes back to a lot of different factors. We don't run it as often. We also have lines that aren't as good as they were in the past. So there's like different things. Saquon's an extreme talent running behind a really damn good offensive line.
There's a lot of factors that go into it.
All of this could have been done in New York if we had a good O-line. They just didn't have a good O-line.
Right. Now, again, the thing I keep coming back to is the fact that, yes, he's got the 1,600 yards rushing, but he also has 267 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. If that continues, most likely he's going to be close to 500 yards receiving by the end of the season, right? Somewhere in the 500 ballpark and a couple more touchdowns. Do
you know what's crazy? If the tush push is not a thing,
he's got at least 7 more touchdowns.
Saquon Barkley might be challenging the touchdown record this season.
Oh, it might be. He definitely would.
So there's that as well.
And that's why I talk about this, because all encompassing, all things considered, what he's doing for Philadelphia is just as valuable as what Josh Allen's doing for Buffalo, what Lamar Jackson's doing for Baltimore. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. He is not an MVP quarterback right now. He's not playing at an MVP level. He has been in that conversation in years past because he's been playing some really good football, so I'm not trying to belittle his talent. But it is obvious that offense right now this season runs through what Saquon Barkley does. And when it's obvious that that's what's happening, then that's where that's the linchpin to that team. And if you're the linchpin to that team and you're putting up these kinds of numbers, you should definitely be in the conversation for MVP.
Absolutely.
All right, my guy, we ran through a lot. Final thoughts.
I am excited that the Broncos have a playoff game this weekend. It's been I think there's an argument to be made that this is the most important game since Super Bowl 50.
I think that's a little recency bias and hyperbole, if you will, but I understand what you're saying. Like this could make or break their season in a good or bad way, for sure.
The Broncos have not played a lot of meaningful games in December in the last 8-9 seasons.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong. And next to the Jets, they have the longest playoff drought in the NFL, I believe. So
if they win this game, they have the tiebreaker over the Colts. They could lose the next 3 and they still beat out the Colts. I think they need to win 2 to guarantee they get a playoff spot. 2 out of 4. This one being that it's a team that's right behind them, 2 games behind them, really, really matters. And I'm excited for that because it's just something we haven't had. We just playoffs have not been a thing for Broncos football in a long time. And the excitement, the fan base, when a fan base has been down for a long time, it's hard to root against them. That's why we love the Lions so much right now, right? Because they were so bad for so long. The Browns, if the Browns ever get good again, I won't hate on the Browns. I'll be like, awesome, man. Congrats, let's go. So I feel like that's where the Broncos are right now. They're playing the Colts. They got them at home. Anthony Richardson's played some okay ball. He's played some bad ball. What do they get? It's an interesting game. This is a playoff game for both teams. And I think that's what I'm excited about, is just seeing the Broncos play a game that's really meaningful that they have to win.
I like it. I love this time of year because there are so many different sports going on that are so meaningful. The NBA, it's early season. That used to be terrible, but the in-season tournament has picked up a little bit. It does make some of these regular season, beginning season games a little bit more enjoyable before the Christmas slate. You've got the NFL, you've got college football, you've got college basketball, which has been off to a hot start with some of the upsets and things of that nature going on already. And we haven't even really talked about that yet. But I think the thing I'm most excited about going forward here for the next couple of weeks is college football. We got the Heisman announcement. We got the Army-Navy game this week, which I am going to end on because I will never not talk about it. The pageantry that goes into that game is second to none. And the never seems to truly get mentioned in the greatest rivalry games in the country. But I do believe it's right up there with Yankees, Red Sox, Michigan, Ohio State, any AFC North battle, whatever you want to call it. A Duke, North Carolina.
The problem they have is most of them are not in the
right. I get it. They're not competing for championships.
Right. Although Army had a really damn good season.
Good year.
Good year.
Navy did too, actually. And I get it, but that doesn't lessen the meaningfulness of that game with those service academies. So if you get a chance and you want to watch some good football this weekend, check that game out. Because it is always, in my opinion, entertaining. And then we kick off the Heisman later that night. We go into the college football playoffs next weekend. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing.
We've got WWE Saturday night main event. That's going to be fun. I'm going to be at the USAA Christmas party, so I won't get to watch that. But
the Heisman's on Saturday night, guys. I think we know. What will
WWE is you can get the Bleacher Report on who won the Heisman. The WWE Saturday night main event is where it's at.
Okay. Well, until next week, if there's something you want to hear from us, you want to chat it up, you want to discuss something, find one of our social medias, let us know, and we'll get on it. Until then, do not take advantage of those moments that you can spend with your family, loved one, friends, inner circle, whatever and whoever they may be. Take advantage of those situations. Cherish them, love them, especially this time of the season. Check on your friends and family. Reach out to your buddies. Cherish those moments.
This is a stressful time of year.
We appreciate you all more than you know. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simple, been